Zwift Racing League 2022-23 has kicked off, and I'm racing the whole thing live on my Twitch channel, and that can be found in the description below. Now, we're going to take those videos and bring them over here to YouTube and highlight them with voiceover commentary to take a look at the skills and the tactics it took to get the result on the day. Now, I'm racing with a team called Oh My God, They Killed Kenny out of the America's West Division A1. Last week, it was race number 1, and we are in Watopia on the Climber's Gambit course. Up front, we're going to take a look at 2 segments. First, through the Estes, there was a sprint, and then there was a climb/sprint segment up the Titans Grove reverse KOM. Then this video is going to get a little longer than you usually see in this series because I'm going to allow to play out the entirety of the Watopia reverse KOM because the way that we climbed it was so decisive to the result. Now, if you like this content, make sure to also join our Discord server where there's a little extra chatter and fun about everything that's going on over on the Twitch channel, as well as the Zwift racing community that we're building. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all that fun stuff. And most of all, I hope you enjoy the video for Climber's Gambit, race number 1 in ZRL. Caleb Carl, on mute.
Like real talk, I'm over here cracking jokes that I think are hilarious and no one's laughing, and I'm like, damn.
That was hard, dude. What are you talking about? Do I even have the NZ kit? I don't even know if I have the NZ kit. 2 minutes ago, start a ZRL season. Let's go. Jump in the channel.
Make your social media post and let's get on with the race. So for commentary here, we're going to get going. And right from the get-go, you're going to see the normal Zwift start. And then we're going to skip right away over to the Essies. We have the usual start where it's a quick little punch and then settle in. But one of our teammates...
He's gone.
Peter Mogg makes a move off the front, and that's what I'm talking about with him being gone as we enter the Essies. We don't make any chase, and we're happy to let that go. Grab some FAL points. From here,
keep on.
The plan, I thought, was to allow Grenier to make a move on the front, and then we all train behind him for a lead out. I'm mad because nobody grabs his wheel, and we all kind of just look at it. I thought that there was a lead out for me as a sprinter on the team. Bad. That's why I'm saying it's so bad, because I know that our teammate, Grenier, is just going to get caught here. Drafting Boots kick, we went really, really late because I hesitated here. I'm not going to get the FTS I was looking for or the FEL I was really looking for. It's a good effort. We end up with a lot in the top 5 and 10, and I end up with some good points here in 7th place, but it wasn't close to what I'm able to do, or I think we were able to do if we wouldn't have had essentially a slowdown over the top of the riser, but instead some acceleration over the riser with a lead out would have been a much better way to really dominate in that sprint, but we got some good points. I fade climb this little punch. We don't do the full reverse KOM and Climber's Gambit. We just take the little cutoff here and do the reverse downhill of the forward KOM of Hilly Watopia. Here, everything chills right on out, and there's a little bit of joking going on that Brett might make a move. I think it was actually planned, and I didn't know about it, and then Brett just kind of gives it a go. And interesting enough, nobody follows. I think everybody just trusted that he would be brought back, and they weren't very interested in that. With the way that FTS are working and them being worth so much, I think people are allowing things to go a lot more and just going for the big points with FTS. I do talk about that a little bit on the wrap if you want to go back and watch that in the first week after ZRL, because I was after this race, because I wasn't. I think it needs some changes, and I think those might come in the future. Actually, we'll see. Pollock makes a move to try and get away early on this climb. If the pace is high enough, you can usually trust that the front of the pack is going to climb strong enough that an early attack like this will not get away. Some riders start to chase. I just make sure I'm within the top 5 wheels. The way that this works here on a climb/sprint like this is that you can trust that everyone's going to be pulling fast enough that you don't gain a whole lot from back to front sprinting. You can just go ahead and get a lead out train essentially from how hard people are pulling over the top of the climb. I do exactly that. I wait till the last final moment within about 300 meters. I think I've got the best kick with my aero boost, and I give it a go with a little bit more of a lead out because I didn't know if I could trust those around me to give me a good wheel. I think I do actually end up with the FAL across the line there as 2nd place. And a pretty good FTS, I believe, as well, as I come through in 3rd. So we grabbed a whole lot of points through there with the way that we played that. Brett off the front, he ends up slowing down. and getting caught. I back way off here, all the way to the back, and just get into the draft as best as I can. I actually almost fade off the back here. Now, my bike choice also is the lightest setup in Zwift. I chose the Roval Alpinist CLX for wheels and the Specialized Athos for the frame. I'll talk more about why I did that once we get onto the climb, but it was very specifically, as far as the sprints go, I really trusted in my sprint to get done what I needed to get done. And then on the climb, you'll see that it was really all about conserving as much energy for me as I possibly could within my limits. Later on, we'll see as I'm drafting and making moves why I think it was very important to conserve energy this way. As we get into the lower slopes here, we do a lot of times on this 10% kick, do see people give it a go, and Brett does exactly that to try and go bottom to top on this climb to see if anybody would follow with him and create a front group. I was just watching to see if anybody else was really going to make a move and follow that and ride within my limits. I believed that this would be brought back or he would go solo. One or the other is within my favor with the way that I'm riding. A lot of times this initial kicker will create a separation group, but the real challenge to making it to the actual climbing section, I would say, or the climb proper, in my opinion, starts after you get past the turn off to the jungle loop. Because here, if you make the selection here, you have this 3% gradient where you can really sit in, and you want to make sure that you're in a great drafting position after that initial 10% kicker or so. If you are there and you're able to rest up here, you're going to reserve so much energy before you actually hit the major slopes. This is actually a massive gain here because I'm at the front of this pack. I don't have to make up any distance whatsoever, so there's no punches I have to make, and I've been essentially drafting at 158 beats per minute, my high tempo, in about a 4.5 to 5 watts per kilogram, well underneath my threshold, fully under control. I haven't wasted a whole lot of my glycogen stores. I'm still burning. You know, I'm in a little bit of an anaerobic state at times, but I'm seriously within an aerobic state. I'm not burning a lot of my matches here at this point, and I'm able to follow wheels, and I can save that. And the entirety of this climb is making sure I don't burn matches too much. I stay in position, I follow wheels, I don't find myself on the front unless I absolutely have to at any point. You can see at this point, though, the moment that it kicked into a little bit of that orange 8 to 9% gradient, I say, okay, these are danger moments. I think as we get into this, anybody who is really struggling over the bridge is going to be making their way backwards at this point, trying to claw their way back into contention and trying to find a way to not go any more over what they've already overextended themselves on. I know it's a breaking point at this point, so I try and make sure I'm right at that back of where I think it may split and don't allow any kind of splits ahead to really form. I notice that the group is bunching up ahead. I can see 3 across or so, only a little bit of 2 across and 1 up front. So I don't think anyone's really going to let any splits go. I know there's a downhill coming right here, and I'm not going to fight anybody for wheels. Watch over and over again on this climb where I don't fight people for wheels, but rather I give the wheel up and slide in behind the rider who's trying to overtake me rather than fight them for the wheel. You'll see the reason for that if you can kind of see the percentages on the draft. I don't actually have the right, I have my heart rate underneath my wattage on sauce right now, so it's not going to give you a very good view of my drafting percentage. But if you can see it in the riders nearby list on sauce, you can see that I'm continually preferring the draft to position once we establish these groups. And you can see here, I make sure I don't roll to the front. I just grab a wheel and then I slot back in. You can hear people saying get off the front here for OMG because Brett is off the front. They don't want anybody to drag. They don't want Dan to be dragging the group up at a faster pace. Oliphant makes his way to the front here actually, and I thought he was a danger man in this climb. I was definitely noticing that he was here. I knew he was a strong rider and was able to do solid climbs. I've raced with him before. So I said, okay, if anywhere that Oliphant goes, I'm going to kind of be following that. I was always obviously watching my teammates to try and stick with them because I know that they're strong riders. And so I do exactly that. Hickford as well was somebody I was going to be watching out for. But I've seen Hickford go so strongly in the past and really go into a place that would feel like an overextension for me. I wasn't sure I'd be able to follow any of his moves. So I was thinking in my head, if he goes with the numbers that we have us around us still, I'm going to let that go and stay within myself. If he wins, kudos to him, or gets the better of me, kudos to him. That is outside of what I want to do now. I want to have my fastest climb. And the people that I'm around right now, I know that they climb about as fast as I can, or maybe a little bit under, or maybe a little bit over. So Hickford, you can do 6.2 for the rest of this climb. Good on you. We'll see you later. Graham goes to follow now, and I'm like, ooh, do I want to follow Graham or do I stick with Oliphant in this group? I know there's some down, not necessarily strictly down. There's a big downhill coming in a little bit, but there's also a couple of flat sections up above. I know there's still advantage to be had. I kind of panic a little bit here and find myself pushing a tad. And then I say, look at this massive group around us here. I bump it up just a tad to bring in a little bit of striking distance. I say, no, I'm going to draft on those who are going to push harder than me at this point. I let some of my teammates by, and I just jump right on that wheel. Now it's going to be AF full force here with their top two riders as far as climbing goes. Oliphant is here. I believe we also have Ian Mulligan right there as well. We've got Caleb Carl that's on my team as well, within 1 second back. But this is getting into the nitty gritty. These are the moments here on this climb where people usually start to fall off, because this grind, you're going to have this all the way around loop at 9% or plus, then it's going to jump up into the double digits, and then you get up by the power lines and a sharp downhill descent, that is going to be the usual about halfway point break it moment as to anybody who's well over their threshold for that 10 minutes or so that you've been climbing, they're going to be popping off. Anybody who's been able to really just keep it at threshold or a little bit under, you'll start to notice, and you'll start to see them able to extend themselves on the later parts of the climb. Now we're going to get into this right-hand turn. It's going to kick up again, and we're going to start dropping some riders off. Caleb Carl going backwards 2 seconds. Mog as well going backwards about 2 seconds at this point. And we've got driving the place, Flanders just absolutely, as Dave Toll would say, flogging himself on a rented mule, and him essentially renting him. Now, I'm getting a little frustrated, though, at this point, because people are pushing me off the wheel, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to back off rather than fight for position. And you'll notice here, I don't necessarily try to fight too hard for position. I allow the riders around me to kick up as much as they're going to go, 6 watts per kilogram or so. I back off to just try and find a wheel again. That's the name of the game here. I've selected a lighter setup. It's not going to roll quite as fast, but it's going to accelerate uphill, and it's going to also go uphill to close these gaps a little bit quicker, and I'm going to have to work a little bit less to keep this same speed. And I'm sitting within these drafts at a 4%, 6%, 7% draft this entire time, working just that little bit less in order to hold that exact same speed. The only point that I think I made a little bit of a mistake here that ended up maybe not being too much mistake, because I do roll pretty well, but it could have been a danger moment if the group that gets away here in a second would have just kept it rolling too much. As you can see, we've got this gap being closed down to Graham. He wasn't able to hold on too much. The group's been working pretty well together, and the pace has been high enough, and Flanders is just going nuts on the front at 5.6. I'm holding a steady 4.9 on Oliphant's wheel. Mulligan now comes around as well. So now I say EF making some moves, and I'm like pretty confident because I feel within myself still. I'm hurting, but I'm within myself. I'm in a little bit of a, is this going to be the moments where I start to get dropped? Oliphant doesn't hold the wheel. I'm super concerned. I've got to kick into orange, so I should have probably been in a better position coming over the top here. Pedrosa gets me a little bit of wheel. Again, it gets away from me. Oh, now it's Mulligan that's going to give me a wheel. I'm trusting that these two are going to drive us back up to Flanders, but Flanders is like, I think, a full 10 kilograms heavier than us. Look at the gap he gets immediately. That could have been a wheel to ride a little bit better there. We would have maybe not had to work quite as much to bring back the time that we do on Hickford in a little bit here. Dan then makes his way to the front. Luckily, we had him there with me. I grab right onto his wheel, and I just let him do the work. As you can see, it's going to be Mulligan trying to hold on. He has to crawl his way back. He wasn't really anticipating the acceleration from Dan, it looks like, too much there, so he has to work a little bit to get back on my wheel. He pushes me off the wheel. As you can see, how incredibly important knowing what wheel you're on and where you are and where your overextensions are and what your speed is. Speed will always be king in bike racing if the physics are right, and it is in Zwift. As you can see, He pushes me off the wheel with his speed, and now I've got to fight a little bit for Dan's wheel. Mulligan, I think, is maybe backing off a tad, allowing me on. I push up the 6 to say, get off of me here, dude. I really want my teammate's wheel, and you can see my avatar slides in. And Mulligan pushes me off again. So, like, this is just a fight for Dan's wheel, essentially, at this point. Ian, for some reason, really is fighting me hard for this, and I think perhaps he wants to get by. I'm not exactly sure, because I think he accelerates at this point because he's frustrated with me as well. I finally give up the wheel a little bit here and then say, okay, I'm just going to stay steady on Dan. Then I see that Ian might be making a move. I go right on by. Dan panics a little bit here in a moment. I think he just gives full gas in the second here to go by. No, excuse me. Dan actually holds off here, and Ian drags us up to the wheel of the other two riders. Grant has been caught at this point, so I'm glad at this point that I did not go with him, as I figured the riders that were around me were going to drive the pace enough and have that pushing of each other up this climb within ourselves to bring back anything that wasn't going to stick in and of itself with just a monster effort. Now we do see Ian here dragging us up to the wheel of Flanders for his own self-interest, obviously. We just happen to be behind him. I don't think he wants to drag us up. I think there's just reality that this is going to go if I don't go to Flanders' wheel now. We all back it off just a tad, as obviously this is getting a little bit of a downhill. Everyone's looking for a reprieve. I'm like, okay, are we ever going to catch Heckford? I'm not even thinking about that anymore. Boniface is absolutely gone. We're completely confident that that's going to be the W most likely. And now I'm just thinking, can I win amongst these riders? But Dan had some other plans here. Dan Pedroza makes his way up toward the front, and I follow his roll through. Look at that roll through that I do with him. The moment he comes through, I grab that wheel for a draft for free speed and try and grab right onto it. Flanders now goes up to 6 watts per kilogram. I go, okay, maybe I can trust Flanders' wheel, and I slot right in. Mulligan, again, I don't think was making his timings too well, has to close the gap down. He's overextending himself. We'll see if he's got anything to follow when it goes. Now Pedroza says, I'm just going to go at this point because it's getting to the top here. This is the final 9% kick. It gets real steep at this point. We hear Caleb Carla drop this chain, so he's in the background swearing a little bit, losing time. Still in a solid, though, I think, top 10 position. Flanders uses his feather power-up, as you can see. People start thinking power-up time. It's obviously getting into that final K. We're within 800 meters to the finish line now. I back off just a tad because it seems like Flanders wants the wheel. I saw the feather power up. Then the feather power up goes, and I know Dan's on the attack. He pumps it up to almost 7.5 watts per kilogram. I know that this is the move. Nobody else is responding. I have to go. I've got plenty to work with. I've kept every major match up until this point that I might have underneath me. My max heart rate is up into the 190s usually if I really have enough to work with, like a full flutter. So he drags me right up to Hickford almost with that 7 watts per kilogram. He backs off and like, ooh, is he faded? He's done, it looks like. He fades down to 5.5, and I go, okay, Dan's done. I've got a little bit more to work with. Can I get across? It looks like they launched me, and now at this point, instinct of being a part of a team kicks in. I wasn't necessarily planning on going over the top, but I was like, I've got it. I feel like I can. I'm going to give it a sprint effort and see if I can close this down. Hickford sees me coming, and I'm like, oh, no, is this going to happen? I was not sure I was going to close this down, but I was like, I'm going to give it what I got. If I get within striking distance over the top, I just got to believe. Right here, I throw down my drafting boost because I think I'm going to close it down quicker than I do. I don't actually. It was probably a little bit too early. I've only got 47% draft now at this point. It's 50%. I need more like 100%. I've got to kick again to get trial onto his wheel, and he goes again. Luckily enough, I'm on the downhill with the drafting boost. I've got a little bit more than he does because I wasn't overextending myself completely up into that 179 beats per minute, and then he fades to 4.9. I'm still doing 6. I get into the draft, and then I don't have to work quite as much. I've got more speed, and over the top, I almost always have a good orange kick to the line, and there it is, second place, very well paced. And as I start talking in a moment here about how it all went down, I'll let myself talk from stream that I did about how it went. But second place, 4.2 average.
That was hard, dude. I gave everything I could there at the end. I just played smart the whole way. I knew that my climber could just sit on. So I just drafted the whole thing, dude. I never left a wheel. Never left a wheel. And I just watched Sauce the whole time. I watched Sauce the whole time 4%, 6%, 10%, 4%, 6%. Saved the whole way. What kind of time did I pull there, I wonder? I didn't see. Was it a good time? I got a 15:03. That's like slow compared to the guys this morning. 15:03 is slow. That's my fastest time ever up that thing for sure.
As you can see, fastest time ever, 15:04 on my Strava. Thanks a lot to everybody who raced. My second place over the top, average 283. And, oh my God, they killed Kenny at the top of the board after that race. One thing I do want to start doing is also showing my in real life racing that goes right alongside my racing on Zwift. So this is what I did the weekend following Schwamagon Fat Tire 40, part of the Lifetime Grand Prix. And we'll get a video with voiceover up on that soon.
With the aim of taking the Zwift racing results, fitness, and gains and juxtaposing them next to the in real life results, racing, and gains that we're getting right around the same time. Now, if there's anything you would like to see covered in this race video, please let me know in the comments. I'll look to respond and then add that to future videos. I do post a lot of day-to-day content on Instagram, so you can throw that a follow. So if you want more up-to-the-moment updates, that's where you can find that. Obviously, these races are all recorded live over on twitch.tv. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'm going to see you soon for the Check 40 review, as well as ZRL race number 2 of round 1 in the 2022-23 season. See you later, everybody. Ride on.